Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Matt Report, courtesy of the Cobos Insurance Center. Tim Alcorn. Yes, I'm actually here. Tim Alcorn, along with Shaun Bennett from the Chronicle Telegram. And of course, it is great to be back. Yes, this is my actual voice you are hearing. And yes, I am actually sitting here with Shaun Bennett. Although, Shaun, I have to say, you and Bruce Bishop now back behind the camera this week. That was awesome last week. I really enjoyed that, and I have to say it was a big hit down in the Sunshine State. When my dad and the neighbors saw it, they thought that was absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, we have a three-man show now. We have Tim Alcorn, Shaun Bennett, and Tim Alcorn's head. So we have three co-hosts of the show now.
Well, I think Tim Alcorn's head needs to disappear right now. But we'll keep the live Tim Alcorn going, and certainly it's great to be back. Great to talk wrestling on the Matt Report, and a lot of action to talk about last weekend on the mats. Let's start with Elyria in the OHSAA dual state tournament. Not a bad faring for the Pioneers.
No, I mean, it was going to be a tight matchup. They were the 4 and 5 seed. Elyria was the 4 seed. Cincinnati LaSalle was the 5 seed. Caught an unlucky break going into it. Josh Breeding, senior leader, returning state placer, tweaked his ankle during practice, so he was unable to compete. So right off the start there, they were already kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the match itself was kind of a weird one. I've been down there 4 years now with Elyria. They've made it 4 years in a row, and it's a chess match down there. It's pretty intense. The coaches try to do all kinds of things to get the edge, and they have this rule where one team picks odd weights, team picks even weights, and what I mean is the first, third, fifth matchups, not like the pounds themselves. But
okay.
So they have to present. So Elyria starts to present, then the next match. Cincinnati LaSalle had to present. So they got to this middle section where all of a sudden there's just forfeit after forfeit after forfeit, and it was odd, and everybody's going didn't understand why it was happening, this and that. But as it went on, Cincinnati LaSalle, Elyria built this lead through the forfeits. Cincinnati LaSalle knew its strength was in the end of its lineup. Kind of knew Elyria was a little inexperienced at that portion of the lineup. They kind of came roaring back at the end, and they end up nipping Elyria in that state quarterfinal and winning that dual meet 40-30.
I'm sure you had a chance to talk to Eric Burnett following the match with LaSalle. All in all, how did he feel his team came out of it, and then just how did Eric feel?
Well, I mean, he felt like pretty much anybody watching that. It was the bonus matches. It was a little thing here or there. It was some things where they were hoping that one of the guys might have got bonus, or that their guys, when they lost, maybe didn't give up bonus. They end up giving up 24 points in the last 4 matchups. That's the maximum allowed that they could give up. That is obviously what Cincinnati LaSalle used to propel itself to victory there. If Elyria finds a way to only give up decision wins in those, they could still end up winning that dual meet. So yeah, it was a tough matchup. Again, disappointing for Elyria not to win that quarterfinal, but St. Paris Graham, number 1 seed, who went on to win the whole thing, was waiting in the next round. They thoroughly obliterated Cincinnati LaSalle, so that was kind of probably what was waiting for Elyria as well. So it was not a disappointing outcome like 2 years ago when they were made the final. They were with St. Edward, and maybe the swing of one match earns Elyria a state championship, which was a high level of disappointment. But this was disappointing nonetheless.
And I know a couple of weeks ago during this video we talked about the health, the future. Don't be bringing Tim Alcorn's head back into this of the OHSAA duel. I'll ask the head, and I'll ask you, what's the future of the tournament? Do you still have some questions?
I think they're working on they're working on the fixes right now. They're going to this next year. They're going to the one-day regional. We'll do all the regional competition in one day, one site, which will help eliminate some of the cost of the tournament. I think they have a good crowd down there. They're doing okay. They're getting closer, so I think it's going to be okay. Most of the coaches think that it's going to be here for good. So I think we're all right.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about postseason wrestling. The Patriot Athletic Conference held their tournament last week, and what can you share with our viewers about that?
Yeah, I was out there at that one as well. The state duels were on Sunday down at St. John Arena in Columbus. The PAC duels, the PAC tournament was at Brooklyn High School. Real good one because we had lots of local teams in there. Keystone was our top finishing team. Buckeye ran away with it. They had just really good performances up and down their lineup, and they end up winning, I think, like 84 points.
Ooh.
The Keystone finished in second out of 12 teams there. A couple champions for Keystone, David McCullough at 182 and Justin Ochiltree at 195. Firelands also had 2 champions. You probably can tell me who they were.
I'll bet you it was Shaun Lipscomb and Peyton Bergdorf.
That's absolutely right. And Bergdorf punched up, pretty impressive. Bergdorf punched up to 113. He's normally 106, and he punched up to 113. He had some strep going on. He had a couple of things that kind of hindered his weight cut. But at the same time, better field at 113. You had Zach LaHood from Black River there, who's state ranked. That's who he met in the final. He had a little bit better matchups, and plus, just naturally, being a 106-pounder, wrestling 113-pounders, they're going to be a little bit bigger and stronger. So he got a little bit better workout in some of those matches. So that was pretty good on his part as well.
And by the way, just so you don't think I don't read your stuff in the Chronicle about the wrestling, I do. Peyton got himself in a little hot water in that match. Tried a different move, as I read.
I've seen him do that a couple times. At Firelands, they went out and covered a match where he was trying all kinds of off-the-wall moves, trying some different things,
Yeah.
and it ended up being a lot closer match than he wanted. This one, same thing. He's watching highlights on Flow Wrestling, he says, and I don't know if he was trying to get on the highlights of Flow Wrestling or if he was trying to just mimic a highlight on Flow Wrestling, but he did try something that he saw on one of the highlights of Flow Wrestling. Did not work out so well for him. He got basically almost thrown right to his back and looked like he might be in trouble for a quick second, but he was able to scramble out of it. So, but when you're undefeated, and he is still undefeated, still the only area undefeated wrestler, I guess you can afford to try a few things and maybe add to your arsenal. I mean, he's already got a pretty large, move,
In his
cachet.
toolbox, yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff he can do already, so it's kind of dangerous to think him adding more things to it. But yeah, he's pretty solid.
All right. Anything else from the pack?
Yeah, our last individual champ was Jacob Campbell, senior out of Black River. Also bumped up from 195 to 220 pounds. Won that championship, and he become the school's career wins leader during that tournament as well, knocking off his brother and current Black River wrestling coach, Jesse Campbell. So that was kind of a fun little story as well. So, and then obviously those 3 schools, Keystone, Firelands, Brookside, were the top 3 performers, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th out of 12 teams. So kind of good job for all the programs there.
And another team that we want to touch on real quickly before we look ahead to this week, Midview went out west and had a very, very good showing.
Yeah, they went out to the Toledo area to Holland Springfield. They competed in the Dick Hoover duels out there. Finished in 1st place.
There you go.
I didn't know a lot about the tournament. Didn't really hear about it till just recently about the results because it wasn't on track wrestling or anything like that, so I didn't know. But they went in and they just kind of dominated in the pool play tournament, the round robin type tournament. They beat Toledo Whitmer 53-8 in the first dual meet. Savannah Southview 80-0.
Wow.
84-0.
That's pretty
84-0 is a complete shutout. That's
Right.
like 6 points all the way through. So 80-0 is high level domination.
It's super impressive.
It is super impressive. And then the host Holland Springfield team, they beat them 65-9. So they just kind of rolled through their preliminary play. Then they met Fremont Ross, and Fremont Ross is one of the premier programs in the western part of the state, and they beat them 39-34 in the final to win the whole thing.
Very cool. So congratulations to Midview head coach Shaun Bristow and that Midi wrestling program. That's an outstanding performance, and it leads right into where they'll be this week. That's not an outstanding performance, but where Midview will be this week, along with the other SWC teams, the SWC tournament.
Yeah, the SWC tournament's going to take place at Lakewood on Saturday. I'll be there. It's going to be pretty good this year. I mean, not that it's not good every year, but this year there's a lot of teams vying for the title. Midview and Olmsted Falls, I believe, are in the lead with only one league loss apiece. Behind them are Amherst, Avon, Olmsted Falls are tied with Berea Mid Park. Avon Lake's up in that right in that that section where they've got a bunch of good guys as well. And even the team race is one part of the story, but there's a lot of good individuals vying for titles this week as well. So the SWC is going to be a fun tournament. It's at the high school, at Lakewood High School. I don't know if you've ever been to a Lakewood football game. Parking's awful around the stadium, but at the high school, they got a nice big parking lot right across from the high school, so it's a lot easier to kind of go to that event and find parking and get right in. So I highly recommend anybody coming out to check that out. Across the other way, over in Lakota High, and I just know that's way out west somewhere.
That's out there.
Yeah, that's where Vermillion will be competing in the Sandusky Bay Conference. That's going to be our last 2 conference tournaments. That's going to wrap up. the regular season / conference postseason, whatever that might be, because the week after that is sectional. So yeah, get yourself out to one of these 2 locations, see some of our local wrestlers wrestle. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right. I don't know if there's room for a hat on that head, but there's room for a hat on our heads, right? Yeah, put that head down. All right, it's time for the weekly Tip of the Cap segment. And again, a great big thank you to the Cobos Insurance Center for the cap as we tip it to a wrestler each and every week. So, Shaun Bennett, put that head down. Who we giving the Tip of the Cap to?
Tip of the cap this week will go to Fireland Senior heavyweight Shaun Lipscomb. Shaun went in and probably had the toughest final, probably the premier matchup at the Patriot Athletic Conference. He went up against Clearview Senior, J.D. McCardle. They're both state ranked. J.D. State ranked in Division III, Lipscomb state ranked in Division II, and he ends up pinning J.D. McCardle in the championship match to win his 3rd conference championship and was named the PAC MVP. So obviously a very dominant performance, a very impressive performance, a super impressive performance, and a good way to kind of cap his high school career heading into the very, the very most important last 3 weeks of his career as well. So tip of the cap to Shaun Lipscomb for a really dominant performance last weekend.
That's awesome. So congratulations, Shaun. And I have one more tip of the cap to your wife for the outstanding Valentine's candy. I got Valentine's candy, Bruce Bishop. It's the only candy he'll ever receive on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
How about that? Tip of the cap, yes, to Mrs. Bennett.
Yes, my wife Mary getting in there, getting the chocolate fruits and all kinds. She loves doing that kind of stuff, and she stuffed those into my hands as I was heading out the door and said to make sure Bruce and Tim got some chocolates for Valentine's Day.
Look at the smile on that guy's face. It was some good Valentine's candy. All right, well, we thank you for taking a look at, once again, our Matt Report, courtesy of the Cobos Insurance Center, for a very full Bruce Bishop behind the camera after all that candy. And for Shaun Bennett, Tim Alcorn saying we'll talk to you again next week.